Thanks for tuning in. This is Mr.Sanemon with another cartoon review. Today we're going to be discussing Teen Titans, the 2003 animated series. Teen Titans started out as a DC comic book series in the 1980s featuring a cast of teen superheroes. Featuring Robin, I believe the Dick Grayson one, Raven, Starfire, Beast Boy, and Cyborg are also present, bringing the count to a total of 5. The show was initially detached from the DC continuity and was more geared towards children. It was initially received with mixed approval from critics and DC fans. The show was marketed towards children after all. After the first season, the show started shifting focus and became more and more what you might expect from a DC series. The younger demographic was still kept in mind, but the audience was much broader due to more complex themes being introduced. The shift focus really apparent for me when I saw the episode Terra, which is episode 16. The show has recently been rebooted as Teen Titans Go, changing its art style and focus and retaining a bit of the nostalgia for this original show is really the keystone into television. It was the path that Teen Titans gets into television. Teen Titans was cancelled in 2005 and the last episode aired in 2006. So the show aired for a good 4 years, about, because the first pilot I believed was in 2002. So not a bad run, and it was cancelled with mixed impressions. People didn't want it to go, but it was finished off with a movie, which I will be reviewing separately at some point. Now that we're done with the history, let's get down to the opinion stuff. To start, I remember the show from when I was younger. I guess it's been a decade since 2003, so I would have been all of 8 when it started airing, and I was a loyal fan at that point. I mean, as loyal as a kid can be to one show. So when I went back to re-watch it, my expectations were high. I mean, I had such fond memories of it. When I went back to watching it, I did feel a little let down. I noticed that the first season was the weakest season by far, and the most episodic and predictable. The plots were really predictable. I remember 2 or 3 episodes from the season. The episode with Mad Mod, one of my favorite episodes in the series actually, the Red X episode, and the episode with Raven's mind, and those were good episodes. But other than that, the Season 1 wasn't too great. If I was just reviewing Season 1, I don't think it would be a very positive review. But I'm not just reviewing Season 1. However, I did not give up. I kept watching. And I continued watching. I got to Season 2 and things really started to turn around. The plots were less predictable, though there were some big duh moments, and the animation was a big step up, reusing fewer motions and really trying. The continuity was a little better, though I still had some questions about the show, and the sound was by and large much better. The voice actors really found their own, and the second season was much more impressive. The animation style was great. I really enjoyed the slightly anime-ish style with remnants of superhero inspiration, which I thought was very unique. I really think this show has a bit of a tendency, at least in the first season, to try to be My Little Pony for boys. But you can't do that with an established intellectual property that people care about. Referring to DC and it tying in with DC stuff, and I'm glad they changed that attitude towards writing. I did mention I had a few problems with continuity, and I'm sure anybody could guess which they're going to be. We know Batman exists because Robin vaguely mentions him and Wayne Enterprises makes an appearance. So, why doesn't Robin contact Batman or the Justice League to ask about Slade? I mean, he has so many questions, why doesn't he contact them to figure out who he is? They would know, they've dealt with him before, though they might recognize Slade. I don't know if they'd recognize Slade because his actually Deathstroke. Why doesn't he ask Batman to help him out? Why in the Dystopia episode did none of the other powerful supers stop the future that Starfire sees? It is simply this, because Glenn Murakami and David Slack didn't want to use established characters in their show. They wanted to sort of detach it from the rest of DC, which didn't make sense because they were using a DC intellectual property and setting it in the DC universe. And that was my overall problem. That was my biggest problem with the show. There are a few awkward things with the dialogue, and the music does get a little repetitive at times, but I have to say I deeply enjoyed the majority of the series, and I would recommend it for the kiddos, maybe the more mature audience, but they could also watch the Justice League or Young Justice instead, or read the comic books. But going back to it with a love of animation, I was still impressed, and am still impressed to this day. If I had to score it, and I will just because I was so mean earlier, I'd go 8.0 overall out of 10. Maybe if I was feeling a little grumpy, 7.5, a little generous, an 8.5. Oh, and I really like the title crawl and the theme song. That actually makes up about 4 points of the score. Just kidding. Um, though I do like it. I skipped it because I was, sort of powering through a lot of the episodes. And so I'm going to be uploading this in Letterboxd because I had to use a capture off of the tube because my DVD set of these wasn't working right. I couldn't rip them. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks watching for. Bye.